there we go. We got the team moving in.
Okay, stay with
Gonna stay quiet here.
Is that the front door in the dark area there? Now we can see better.
Here we go.
See the shots fired. Multiple sounds now.
Wow.
Now, again, for everybody just joining us right now, this is live coverage not too far from Shands at I-95 and 8th Street. Police JSO SWAT team looking for Larry Thompson, suspected in the kidnapping of Michelle McCoy, whose remains were found on the north side of Jacksonville. This is live coverage as SWAT is coming in. It looks like they're firing some type of percussive reports into the house here. We have not.
Yes, and Shannon, sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to note that we've heard at least 20 of those explosive noises. There goes another one, and you can probably, did you get to see that white flash, the yellow flash from some kind of weapon or firing mechanism? That's about the fourth or fifth one we've seen.
Looks like they're going inside the house now.
Late morning, U.S. Marshals acting on a tip close in on a house at 95 and 8. This is near Shands Hospital. It might be Larry Thompson.
They claiming that they looking for the guy who killed that girl.
Around 1 p.m., JSO closes down the neighborhood, throwing a net around Thompson. No way in, no way out.
Look at them with them guns and all, pointing at people. That's not right.
3 p.m. on one side of the lockdown neighborhood, a prayer vigil by the family of the forgotten victim, Michelle McCoy. On the other side, a school for the challenged. The Mount Hermon Exception Child School is also locked down, but parents are now starting to be allowed in. Police soon bring in heavy equipment and at 6 p.m. take their first run at Thompson. Then they introduce tear gas. As the light fades, so does the activity. Finally, at 7:30, police deliver their first update.
At this point, we're still trying to get him to talk to us, and that's what we're going to continue to do for a while.
But soon, as the pressure from JSO mounts, Thompson decides to end the standoff.
We made entry. Mr. Thompson was deceased on the floor with a single gunshot wound to the head, had the gun in his hand, and that's where we are right now.
I'm currently about a quarter of a mile down State Road 16 west of the fire, west of the BP station. The smoke is dissipated.
Aerials right now. This is an amazing plume of smoke. New video just in for the information center now. And again, brand new information, a truck pulling into the BP station there on State Road 16. As you look at the flames just absolutely licking the sky there, take a look at how they compare to where the trees are. That is an enormous plume of fire and smoke right there. But a truck was apparently refueling and something ignited, and that's what caused the explosion. I don't know if that is the person who's injured. We don't have any confirmation on which person is injured, if in fact it's just one. But that is apparently at least where it started. We still don't know why the explosion occurred, but we know that it was during a refueling incident.
Thank goodness, finally we have rain. We do want to be safe. That looks ominous, but we've been seeing severe thunderstorms all afternoon from Baptist South off I-95. That's where that image is coming from one of our viewers. Good evening, I'm Jeannie Blaylock.
And I'm Shannon Ogden. We do have some severe thunderstorms packed with lightning, and they're moving across the First Coast right now. Several counties are under severe thunderstorm warnings, and thousands of people currently are without power. Now in Jacksonville, we have reports of hail on the north side and downed trees on Beaver Street, and also reports of wind damage in Kingsland, Georgia.
It was the secret we did not know, right in the middle of this hero's homecoming, right on this driveway. First, though, May 22.
I come from a military family. I don't remember any of the incident at all. It was 10 pounds of homemade explosives and a pressure plate IED. I could be dead. I mean, I should be dead.
You all right?
No.
It's really bad?
Yeah.
Tyler, age 21, a triple amputee, but bent on more service.
My goal, after done with my rehab here at Walter Reed, is to re-enlist in the Marine Corps. I would like to do at least 20 years.
His dream, a motivational speaker for the military.
This country's given me enough that I feel I need to give them some back.
Everybody clap your hands. Come on, y'all.
30 seconds with Tyler, and you feel up. He and his buddy call this the amputee cha-cha song.
Reverse. Reverse. Slide to the left.
Rehab Now is here at Walter Reed in Washington. 10 months so far,
That really hurt.
and 18 more months to go.
Try and keep whatever I got left strong. Preserve it. Yes, sir.
And talk about a no-quitter.
Creation making him kind of dizzy. He's a good-looking guy. You can buy him as a womanizer. Jeremy Piven was soon not so busy. Entourage.
All under the watchful gaze of two nuns, Sister Jeanette and Sister Constance. If you've ever attended Catholic school, their philosophy won't surprise you.
Shape up or ship out.
But if that's a predictable response, it's probably the only thing predictable about these two. They run this school smack in the middle of the second highest homicide district in Philadelphia.
We've been robbed here many times, run after robbers, and once I chased him, and he dragged me down 3 flights of steps, and I kept screaming for help, and finally I said, "Constance, help me." And she came running out, and she said, "You let that go, and you get out of here. I'm calling the police."
Running, the cops are
So he
on the
did.
way. You start running before they do anything. He dropped it and he went. Yeah. You can become a tiger if you're protecting your
Yes.
Protect it, they do, along with the 500 students who attend school here. And they do it on their own, with no help from the diocese. When it became clear the Cardinal was going to shut them down for lack of funds, they struck out on their own, taking finance classes and learning how to raise money.
We decided then DeSales is not for sale.
They had dreams for the children here. They knew someone needed to. Sister Jeanette recalls a day when they were studying Dr. Martin Luther King. The children were asked to fill out their own I Have a Dream speech.
Elementary school students, you figure, well, they're going to write, "I'm going to be the President of the United States," or "I'm going to be a famous basketball player." And so many of them said, "I have a dream that I'll be able to go to the store without being shot. I have a dream that I would be able to not have to cover the windows at night because somebody might shoot into my home."
First, let me say that 99% of mechanics and repair shops are honest, but there's still a few bad seeds in the profession. So here are my top 10 auto repair scams and how you can avoid them. Number 10, the padding of the bill. Here's how it works. You take your vehicle into the shop for one thing, and the service writer says you need more work. To protect yourself from these unnecessary repairs, find out what needs to repair, find out if you can prioritize the work, and better yet, get a second estimate. Number 9, you need fuel injection service every 15,000 miles. Here's the reality. If you're using good fuel in your vehicle, your fuel injection system will last a lifetime. To protect yourself from this type of auto ripoff, spend the extra pennies on a good grade of fuel that has a detergent to keep your fuel injection system clean. Number 8, the oil change special. Usually these specials are there to lowball you and sell you some more expensive work, and usually the filter is cheap and the oil is cheap. To protect yourself, follow the manufacturer's recommendation.
We're going to challenge the claims we don't think are legitimate. It is our job to protect the taxpayer's interest.
Are you saying 65% or more than 65% are not legitimate with the heart and lung
I'm saying that
bill?
we have very capable people in the risk management department that take their job very seriously, protecting taxpayers' interest and also trying to strike a balance between managing a fair workplace. And I think I respect your efforts to try to get to the bottom of this, but this is virtual tabloid journalism, because the reality is we have very smart, capable people that take their job seriously. Yes, there are lawyers that make a living pursuing these claims that they've gotten your attention, obviously, But we have a job to do, and that is protect taxpayers' interest and also create a fair workplace.
Lawyers representing police and firefighters are making hundreds of thousands of dollars on denied heart and lung cases. In these 5 cases we've reviewed, you have had to reimburse $241,000 to attorneys because the city lost in court. More than a month ago, we asked the city for a total of how much money has been spent on legal fees. We are still waiting for the answer. But those numbers are not the only ones we've been waiting for. I know that we've had trouble getting some information about how much fraud has been caught. $800,000 spent on surveillance in 5 years, but why can't we find out how much fraud has been caught?
Let me tell you, there are HIPAA laws that keep us from disclosing any kind of medical records, as you know, and as you should respect. So we're going to comply with the law.
Stop. In no case did we ask for medical records, so we are not asking for anything that would violate HIPAA. Let's continue. But I'm not asking for medical records. I'm asking for how much fraud has been caught.
I think what we do is we take seriously the notion of trying to find folks that are gaming the system. That's what we do to protect the taxpayers. That's our obligation. We're going to continue to do that.
But is there a cost-benefit document that exists somewhere to show it pays to spend this kind of money?
The cost-benefit is relying on the seasoned managers in this government to make the judgment call. They're paid to make the judgment call on which cases they think are legitimate, which ones are being used to game the system and take advantage of the taxpayer dollars. There's never been a time where we need to scrutinize government spending more than we do now. And this is an area where we think we can capture savings if the system's not being respected and managed properly.
How much savings then?
Whatever the managers think is the balance between following the case, getting the return, and they have to make that adjustment. That's what they're paid to do, is make that judgment call.
But can we get those numbers of how much savings?
We're going to completely comply with all public records. That's our job. You're entitled to that, and whatever you want, you're going to get, as long as we're not in violation of HIPAA laws. And that's the only reason we would not share is we're in violation of HIPAA law.
In September 2010, we asked for the amounts of money being spent on surveillance of city workers in the last 5 years. In November, we asked for the amount of money being paid to Jacksonville doctors. We also asked to view surveillance video done on workers' comp cases. The city eventually did give us the information. In December, we sent 41 questions to the city since it refused to interview. We asked for the number of cases accepted and denied. We asked why cases were being denied. We asked for the amount of money spent on attorney's fees. We asked how many fraud cases have been found. We asked about the doctors the city was using. And we asked why the city was sending injured workers to out-of-county doctors. The city provided 13 answers. The rest, it said, was protected information, or we would have to pay $362,000 for the information. In January 2011, we asked for more detailed answers to the number of cases handled. We asked for more information on the amount of money paid to attorneys. We asked for a videotaped deposition for one case. We asked again about the amount of fraud uncovered in workers' comp cases. In February, we asked again when this information would be available. We are still waiting. Can you answer, though, fraud has been caught? I'm not asking for medical records. Has fraud been caught?
I can promise you that we have caught fraud in our efforts over time.
But we don't know how much. Or you're not willing to tell us how much?
First of all, you're grabbing me in a parking lot.
Because we asked for interviews on November 15th and 16th, December 1st, February 3rd, February 10th, February 17th, and February 23rd. All were denied.
I don't have the facts and figures in front of me, and your approach is the closest thing to tabloid journalism I've encountered since I've been in office. You need to know that, and you need to own that.
Okay, I've tried for weeks to get an interview.
Well, then maybe
with
you're not effective. Then maybe you're not effective, because we have sunshine laws that we comply with, and we share information all day, every day. And I think the way you're handling the story is irresponsible.
How is it irresponsible when we question how money is being spent? Our money is being spent.
What you're challenging me on is why we shouldn't challenge claims. And that's the opposite of what you're saying. We challenge claims that we don't think are legitimate.
But in the court, they're proved to be legitimate. We're paying the benefits now.
You know, you're being irresponsible. You're being irresponsible the way you're handling the story. And
by asking questions?
By leading with a question that infers the managers at the city hall are not being responsible. They have to make a judgment call between legitimate claims and illegitimate claims, and we got to protect the taxpayer in the process, and that's what they try to do every day.
And what about the doctors being used? It appears some are being used more than others. Does that concern you?
Well, just because you think it appears that some are being used more than others doesn't mean it's a fact, number one. Number two, we have the right to use whoever we want. I mean, that's part of the process. I mean, these managers are hired to make management decisions. They select doctors that they think are effective.
Here are the facts. We sent the city a request with 9 doctors' names listed in the city's provider directory from 2009. We asked for a breakdown on how much those doctors were being paid by the city in the last 3 years. The numbers showed some were paid a few $100s, but 2 brothers who specialize in orthopedics were paid $1.3 million in 3 years.
And so the way the system's run right now, you have no concerns based on anything that we found, the numbers, you are not concerned by that?
I have no confidence in anything you have found as a reporter, because I think you're irresponsible. Let me just be very clear on that. I have much confidence in the managers at City Hall, much more confidence in them than your ability to do this tabloid journalism.
Well, then can you provide numbers to us that balance it out?
Comply. I've told you this before. We comply with sunshine laws every single time we ask. But that's no excuse for your tabloid journalism.
The fraud alone. Let's just look at fraud alone. I want the numbers on fraud. How many fraud cases have been uncovered?
All I know is your amount of knowledge on this topic is embarrassingly low. And for you to challenge me on facts and figures is ridiculous. The truth of the matter is I've got competent managers at City Hall that do a good job. And they make the fine line. They make the call between what they think is legitimate and what they think is fraudulent. And they have to decide, are we going to protect the taxpayers' interest when the system's being gamed? Or are we going to try to, make sure that someone's being treated fairly? And they strike that balance every single day.
But the key man striking that balance the mayor talks about is Charles Spencer. He heads up the Division of Risk Management. And the city still will not let us talk to him.
Okay. Can I schedule an interview to share some of the numbers that we found, or maybe we can go over some stuff?
Call Renee or call Kristen or any of them.
Okay.
We did, but the mayor turned us down again.
Okay, but you feel that this is not right, what we've reported, based on the numbers that you've provided?
I think the way you've handled this story has been borderline irresponsible. I have to say.
How is it irresponsible, though? Give me an example of when the numbers are there.
Because we've got managers that have to make a tough call on whether the claim is legitimate or whether it's illegitimate. And they've got to make the call whether they think this needs to be pursued. And if it does, and we can save money by doing it, we pursue it. But they also have to find the balance of creating a fair and equitable work environment. And so we do both of those. But I think you're creating a story that really is not a story. I mean,
the system as it is, you're pleased with?
Let me tell you, I think we got good managers trying the best they can.
Okay.
So good.
Thank you.
Jacksonville voters choose a new mayor in less than a week, and according to an exclusive First Coast News poll just released, it's a close race. Republican Mike Hogan has a 5.5-point lead over his Democratic opponent Alvin Brown, 49-43, margin of error plus or minus 3. Now, a look inside these numbers tells some fascinating stories. Men easily favor Hogan over Brown, 54-39. But take a look at the women here. They break for Brown, but by the slightest of margin, 45.99 to 45.12, but with 9% undecided. Let's break it down now by age groups. Now, the two candidates stay fairly even through all the age groups until you get to the 56 to 61-year-olds. That group goes for Brown. 50% of them, 43% of that group goes to Hogan. Now, the next age group, the bottom falls out for Brown. Voters 62 and over overwhelmingly go for Mike Hogan, 53 to 38%. Taking a look at race in this race, 86% of blacks say they will vote for Brown, who is black. Only 6% say they will vote for Hogan. Now, 54% of white voters say they are going to vote for Hogan, who is white. Nearly 38% say they will vote for Brown. Hispanic voters surveyed are breaking for Brown, 51 to 29%. But take a look at this. Okay, as expected, those who consider themselves liberal or very liberal will vote for Brown, just as those who consider themselves conservative or very conservative will go for Hogan. But look at those who call themselves moderate. They go for Brown, and pretty convincingly, 62 to 31%. Finally, 77% of Republicans say they will vote for the Republican Hogan, while 68% of the Dems say they'll vote for the Democrat Alvin Brown. Now, overall, and this is key, keep this in mind, 7.6% say they're still undecided. So with Hogan, with only a 5.5% lead, statistically, this is still anyone's race. And pursuing those undecided voters, both men recently started airing negative TV ads. So tonight, Donna puts both those ads to the truth test.
Thanks, Shannon. If you followed us through the state and national elections, you know all about our fact-checking stories we call the Truth Test. It's our effort to vet political ads that run on our air to let you know which elements of those ads are true and which are false. With the race for mayor of Jacksonville tightening, we saw our first negative ads appear from both mayoral candidates last week. For the purposes of this story, we will just vet those statements each candidate made about the other. And as always, each candidate's response to the ads is posted in its entirety on our website. None of their statements has been edited in any way. All of the supporting documents we found to make our assessments are attached to the story as well. The first ad from Alvin Brown's campaign is called Stakes. Let's take a look at the excerpt that talks about Mike Hogan.
Mike Hogan's been living off the taxpayers for 20 years.
It's true that Hogan has held elected office for 20 years, first in the city council, then the state legislature, and finally as Duval County tax collector. The ad also has an image that says career politician. It's up to you to decide if that's a positive or negative. One person's career politician is another's experienced public servant.
Hogan's taken 16 pay raises from taxpayers. 16, come on.
It's also true that Hogan has received salary increases over the years. The records are attached to the story on our website. Again, you, the voter, will have to decide if Hogan's raises are a problem for you. There's certainly nothing improper in them.
Yet Hogan cut funding for our local schools.
This statement is both true and false. It's true that Hogan cut funding for schools when he was a state lawmaker in 2001, but he subsequently voted to put that money back. I've attached that budget to this story on our website for your review. Now, this next ad from Mike Hogan's campaign is called Downtown. Let's hear what the ad has to say about Alvin Brown.
Tired of politicians wasting tax dollars on overpriced projects downtown? Alvin Brown wants to spend even more.
Whether or not our tax dollars have been wasted on downtown is opinion, but it's true that Alvin Brown wants to spend more on downtown. He believes downtown development is integral to the city's long-term health.
Brown supports a plan to create a new downtown development authority. It would have the power to increase taxes and spending without voter approval.
The main claim in this portion of the ad is false. While Brown does support creating a downtown development authority, it would not have the power to increase taxes. Tax increases are up to the City Council. I have attached the North Bank Redevelopment Task Force report conducted by the Jacksonville Civic Council to this story on firstcoastnews.com. There is strong imagery in this ad as well. The word liberal appears over Brown's head. It's worth noting that earlier in the campaign, Hogan referred to Brown as having conservative values. This would appear to be a reversal. I've attached that statement to the story on the web. Bottom line, as attack ads go, these are both pretty tame, but they do point out a chief difference between the two men who otherwise appear to agree on many things. Brown considers the development of downtown to be a key element for growth and economic success in Jacksonville. Hogan believes downtown should be treated like any other neighborhood in the city. Again, you can find responses and documents from both candidates in their entirety attached to this story on firstcoastnews.com and on our front page and in the politics section. We begin tonight with breaking news. We are live at the parties for Mike Hogan and Alvin Brown, and tonight the race for mayor way too close to call. Good evening, I'm Donna Deegan.
And I'm Shannon Ogden. I'm glad you're here tonight. It is Election Day in Jacksonville, but we're going to go to bed tonight not knowing who the next mayor is. With all precincts reporting, there is no clear winner.
Let's take a look at the numbers. Brown, 50-50, 95,580 votes for him, 94,977 votes for Hogan. 603 votes separate these two candidates, with Brown on top right now. We have live team coverage. Jeff Marcoux is on the north side, where the vote counting is not over. Caitlin Ross is at Hogan's camp. We begin with Aaron Hawley at Brown's camp.
Thousands and thousands, all running for the same cause, to finish breast cancer. A perfect day for 26.2 with Donna. Good evening, everyone. I'm Deanna Finet. Thanks for joining us. Thousands of runners are resting their legs tonight. An estimated 10,000 runners turned out for the 4th annual 26.2 with Donna, the national marathon to finish breast cancer. Every state was represented today here in Jacksonville, and 22 countries in all. This is one of the only marathons and half marathons where runners get to experience this: a beach run for several miles. It was a chilly start to the run, and spectators were bundled up early on in the race to cheer on the runners. Survivors held up signs thanking runners and cheering Finish not only this race, but to help them finish breast cancer. The marathon's founder and First Coast News anchor Donna Deegan ran side by side her husband, First Coast News meteorologist Tim Deegan, the entire 26.2 miles. And at the 20-mile mark, with 6 miles to go, they both felt and looked great. Donna, there she is. She was all smiles.
Oh my gosh, this is fantastic. Best crowd support ever. I love all these people. It's just been great. Weather's perfect. Awesome day.
Awesome day indeed. Donna is a 3-time breast cancer survivor. She started the marathon 4 years ago. She is also the founder of the Donna Foundation to help women with breast cancer cope with financial needs during treatment.
I want to do a lot of things.
Those wants fell in line behind one basic need.
I had this big lymph node pop up on above my clavicle.
Survival.
And I was like, well, I'm in Korea, lots of strange things. It's probably just bacteria, maybe a virus. Worst case scenario, it's a fungal thing. So, prayed about it. Changed my diet a little bit because there were so many, in Korea. So I was like, well, maybe I should be a little more careful. And I did that for like 2 months, but it didn't get better.
Jason was diagnosed with a rare form of non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. He came back to the States and began a grueling course of chemotherapy.
As soon as they would drop the bag on me, it was like, I was going to crash.
22 treatments later, the cancer is still there, and Jason is spent.
Partly because I'm tired.
Tired both physically and mentally. His immune system shot. Jason spends his days in isolation, mostly on his computer. And his music?
No, I'm pretty much dead inside. There's no, creatively, yeah.
Something his mother, Teresa, calls
hard, heartbreaking.
Talk about that.
Can't.
You learn to take one day at a time. You're there for the good days and the bad days. You look for that spark, whenever he smiles, because in a lot of ways it feels like that smile is gone. I just want that smile back.
Jason is down to the last chemo treatments available. His only hope for survival rests on the shoulders and in the stem cells of his big brother Matthew, a soldier in the U.S. Army.
Oh, he is
the donor.
He's a 16-16 match. And that was a blessing in itself, because from what we understood, siblings generally are not really good matches.
Only 25% of siblings match.
Yeah.
Only 25%. And he's a perfect match.
This is the two brothers when Matthew was just back from Afghanistan.
Yeah.
And it's weird because when they were younger, people used to mistake them as twins when they were separated. When they met each one individually, they'd say, well, you guys look a lot alike. And it was just really weird to find out later how alike they really are and how important that has become in Jason's healing. Because without Matthew as a donor, we'd be looking all over the world for a donor that might or might not be a good match. So genetically, it's just, for me, that was just another sign that, God's hand is on this. I just wish that, we could do something about the political nonsense.
Yeah.
The political nonsense Ron Pathak is referring to could cost Jason his life. Uninsured, he's had to rely on Medicaid for his treatments. Everything was approved for the transplant, and then at the last moment, a bombshell worse than any chemo.
And a week before Christmas, we hear from Medicaid, from the people actually at Shands who came to us and said, you don't have enough inpatient days available to do the transplant. Well, we're, inpatient days, they're saying that there's only 30 days a year allocated to Medicaid patients to use for inpatient stays. So in effect, because he doesn't have enough of those days, then they're denying his stem cell transplant.
If Jason waits until July 1st, his days renew, but his doctors say that will be too late.
And the thing that really infuriates me about this argument that's going on now out there is that they're using this death panel title as something that's new, that's come out of nowhere as a result of healthcare reform. That's such a lie. It's already there.
Howdy folks, I'm Lewis Turner. Thanks for sticking around, kind of checking out the Jacksonville to Jacksonville review over the last 5 days. Sort of the plan was to visit as many Jacksonvilles as possible. Well, we did one a day. We started in Texas, made our way up to Arkansas, then Missouri, Alabama, and finished it all up in North Carolina. Really a great trip, met a lot of fascinating people. Let's go ahead and take a look at where it all started, right back there in Texas.
So who's who? I'm sorry to...
This is our oldest son, Randy.
For many families in Jacksonville, Texas, high school football is generational.
Pat played football on this very field, and our 3 boys did it.
Pat and Robin McCown met at Jacksonville High School, married at 19, and had 3 sons, all who played here.
We feel very blessed.
In the town centerpiece, a stadium that has its quirks.
We might want to hold on just a second.
Better pause for the cause.
Comes
by twice during every football game.
Yeah.
A train that can provide some home cooking and a name that makes visitors stew.
Now that doesn't exactly strike fear in people's heart when they say they're coming
Tomato Bowl.
to Tomato Bowl.
The name comes from the town's famous crop, and their last son to play here has one of the town's most famous arms.
And he really, really likes the guys on the team. He and David Garrard are fast friends. And
their son Luke is a quarterback for our Jacksonville Jaguars.
They're raising their 4 children there, and it's a great place to call home.
A high school record holder in Jacksonville, Texas, now an NFL journeyman who's landed on the First Coast.
He loves working for the Weaver family. He loves working for Gene Smith and Jack Del Rio. It's a good fit for Luke.
They say he keeps a house in both Jacksonvilles, one a couple miles from his mom and dad, the other right down the road from Everbank Field. A true Jacks to Jacks connection.
Luke always says, you know, I live in 2 places, and what are the chances they're both named Jacksonville?
Fresh and ready to speak with us in jail, Stark native Doyce Dean Griffiths, just 1 day after getting arrested for allegedly secretly taping naked women and girls as young as 13 in his private tanning salon business in this barn behind his Bradford County home. Here's Griffiths in his own words describing his work.
Just holding it, just focusing and getting your shot, you know, that you want to get, you know, see what you get into, you know, just like any, you know, shot, just get the stuff in there that you want to see.
Which was?
Naked girls, women, whatever.
Griffiths is not exaggerating when he says he taped women and girls.
Were there any women underage?
Yes.
So you videotaped and watched minors getting naked?
They were just beautiful women.
What is the youngest you would say you've seen?
14. No, 13, probably 13.
How did you feel when you realized you were taping a 13-year-old girl naked?
No, I mean, there was no like excitement that got some, you know, video on somebody that young. It was excitement, or it was just another taping. You know, it was just another beautiful woman.
In fact, Griffiths says what he was doing was so acceptable, he would be okay with someone doing this to his own mother.
So how would you feel if your mother was going into someone's tanning salon and this was happening to your mother?
As long as he's not touching her, it's just, you know, I understand it.
Even more graphic, Griffiths openly admits he routinely practiced an activity after filming his naked customers.
There was masturbation. You know, I mean, I'd be a fool to say, I mean, anybody called me an idiot saying I didn't.
And each tape got plenty of play.
Like once you get the tape, you watch them a few dozen times, you don't never watch them again. It's on to the next, and on to it's the next, I guess, the next person.
At one point, Griffiths admits what he says he was doing was wrong, but in the same breath, he can't really understand why his alleged victims feel violated.
So, Mr. Griffiths, you say that you don't understand why a woman would be bothered by this, but we spoke with some of your alleged victims, and one of them says, after learning about this, she feels like she was molested. What do you say to that?
I didn't touch her.
But she feels like she was so violated, she says she almost feels as if she was molested.
I don't understand that. Honestly, God, I don't understand that.
Griffiths openly tells me the videotaping became an 11-year addiction. He says he would literally sit home all weekend waiting for naked tanners at his salon.
The curiosity, you know, just after a while just kind of took over, you know, and I was able to devise a way, you know, a system that was, you know, almost undetectable, that they didn't know it was happening, so that there was minimum risk of being caught.
Clearly not the case now that Griffiths is sitting in jail without bond, leaving Bradford County detectives with a months-long investigation ahead of them, trying to contact what they say could be as many as 300 victims.
It's very disturbing. It's very concerning to all of us. We know people that are on some of these lists. We know the family of the suspect. So, you know, it's just one of those things that's going to be very difficult that the community is going to have to pull together and work through.
Here's another look at Haley.
So many stories.
Parents' worst nightmare.
A 2-year journey for Misty Crosland, from the raw emotions the day Haley vanished, candlelight vigils, and national TV shows.
I was home.
We saw her get married and divorced, plus that undercover drug sting that led to this.
Hi, Misty. I'm Eric.
The Lowell Annex Prison, where she's more commonly known as inmate V36472.
People don't understand that kills me every day to know I went to sleep and woke up and she's gone. Every night I go to sleep, I just feel like when I wake up, maybe she's gonna be beside me.
In her first television interview since being arrested on drug charges, Crosland fought back against claims she's withholding information.
They got me in prison for 25 years now. If I knew anything, they would know it from day one. I don't know anything. If I did, they would know it. Just because I don't say something when I say it one time, it doesn't come out the same way. I guess that's why they think I'm changing my story, but I'm not. I've always said the same thing.
The Putnam County Sheriff's Office response: Misty has provided several different accounts of what happened the night Haley disappeared. It's a statement Haley's mom agrees with.
I want her to look me in my eyes and see that I hurt because I don't have money. I think she should rot in jail.
But Crosland says their focus on her is wrong. She says investigators used her drug case as leverage for answers she says she doesn't have.
And they come in there and they were just like, if you take us to her, then you won't be sentenced, we'll change your name and all this stuff. And I told them I couldn't take them to anywhere, so just pretty much to leave me alone.
That was right before the sentencing?
Right before I walked in the courtroom, like right down the hall.
Small touches can only go so far when trying to sweeten up the structure and mahogany of a juvenile courtroom. But for Crystal Tyler and her newly adopted son, 10-year-old Rashad, it's only fitting that this courtroom is where they were bonded forever.
It was a long process, but we did it.
It started when Tyler decided to be a foster parent 6 years ago. She was given Rashad and says she fell in love. But after 2 years of foster care, he was taken away to live with a blood relative and was then lost in the system.
In and out of foster care, drug environments, just bad situation. And I tried to find him and I couldn't because nobody would tell me because I wasn't a relative what was going on with him.
She spent 2 years looking for the boy she knew was going to be her son. She had no luck.
I didn't think I could smile again. And he brought a smile back to me.
That smile returned when her job brought her to this courtroom last year.
And it was just by happenstance. I was in court on a separate case and I heard Judge Davis call his name. And he started talking about him and saying he was back in foster care again.
So in the same courtroom today, what they knew in their hearts 6 years ago became official.
Rashad is your son and you're his mother. And that's the way it should be.
I just got adopted.
Just got adopted.
From my mom.
They say their reunion was more than blind luck and coincidence.
I realized that it was just like a miracle.
Yeah, miracle. is the least.
So he's only got a couple days to buy their first ever Mother's Day gift.
I might get her a little surprise. Bye.
But Crystal says the real gift will be the lifetime he gets to live, not worrying about where he'll be waking up.
Today, everything's official. He's mine.
Just the perfect mom for me.
From downtown Jacksonville, I'm Lewis Turner, First Coast News, your news leader.
From the Information Center of First Coast News, this is First Coast News at 11.
There is breaking news on Jacksonville's west side right now. 3 people have been shot at an apartment complex on LaBelle, that is just off Cassett. A crew is on the way to the scene. We'll bring you new information just the moment we learn it. Hundreds are feared dead from the most powerful earthquake ever recorded in Japan, and the danger is far from over tonight. Good evening, everybody. I'm Shannon Ogden. Donna is off tonight. A very busy night tonight. There is a red alert, a state of emergency for 5 nuclear reactors at 2 power plants in Japan. This is a live look at news coverage going on there right now. It's just after 1 in the afternoon local time. The Tokyo Electric Company says it has lost control over the pressure in those reactors tonight. Authorities say there has been no radiation leak yet, but the temperatures in the power plants are rising. So worst case scenario right now would be a meltdown. Japan's Nuclear Safety Agency says it will now order the release of slightly radioactive vapor to hopefully protect the reactor from damage. And thousands of people who live near those facilities have been evacuated. Right now, that's just as a precaution. Take a look at this. This is brand new video just in the Information Center. This is the landslides right after the earthquake today. You can see the ground. That was a train track. You see that? That ground is gone beneath there. Train service, which normally serves 10 million people every day, has been completely suspended. And scientists say this unbelievable magnitude 8.9 quake was 8,000 times stronger than the one that devastated New Zealand last month. The power took even those who are used to earthquakes by surprise. Listen to this.
Oh my God. That is the biggest earthquake to date. It is still going. Oh my God, the building's gonna fall.
And this is also new video. We're just getting, it was taken just after dawn in Japan. And we're finally getting a clearer picture at the scale of destruction. Look at that. This violent 30-foot wall of water from the post-quake tsunami is blamed for this just nearly incomprehensible damage. It swept people away, it swept houses away, it swept cars away. The true extent of this disaster still is not known because the roads to those areas hardest hit are washed away or blocked by debris. On the west coast of the United States, damage is estimated in the millions. This tsunami ripped the docks out of the harbors. It shook boats loose from the moorings in California and up in Oregon. The Coast Guard says a man was swept out to sea while taking photos of the waves, and they say he will not be found alive. Earlier, the tsunami hit Hawaii. That was just before dawn. It rushed up on roadways, also into a couple of hotel lobbies on the Big Island. 7-foot waves flooded the low-lying areas in Maui. More images now for you of the disaster as it happened.
Oh my God, the building's gonna fall.
And it looks like the tsunami has engulfed several cities.
Do y'all see this? A massive wall of water. This devastating tsunami, it swept ashore along Japan's northeast.
First and foremost, our thoughts and our prayers are with the people of Japan.
Boats, homes, almost anything in its path.
Watching this wave hit and cars and buildings and houses being swept away in it, I think we're going to see a significant number of casualties, especially up in the northern part of the country where the quake was epicentered.
The area includes many houses in the
information. At this point in time, what we have to do, organize the team at the emergency disaster headquarters.
It just blew up.
Japan has known about the threat of tsunamis for a very, very long time, and there's almost no...
Our hearts go out to our friends in Japan and across the region, and we're going to stand with them as they recover and rebuild from this tragedy.
The best way to reach U.S. citizens in Japan right now is to contact the Department of State's Office of Overseas Citizen Services. That number is 888-407-4747. We also have that number on our website. And if you would like to help these victims, the local Red Cross here is collecting donations. You can donate on the Red Cross website or text Red Cross to 90999 for a $10 donation. And for overnight updates on this disaster, I want to direct you to the Don't Miss section of FirstCoastNews.com. We have an interactive map that shows all the aftershocks and their intensities. And also we have a photo gallery of all these devastating images.
Now, First Coast News Live Doppler, your 2-minute advantage.
Yes, our thoughts and prayers with those that went through that. It was, boy, an incredible day, that tsunami. And we take a look at our live Doppler radar, and you can see why we're feeling lucky tonight. Nice and quiet out there, and turning a bit brisk later today. And as we head into the weekend, we're going to see some big changes. Let's take a look at what's going on. Our weather watchers. Here we go. We've got Middleburg at 40 degrees. Folkestone, low 40s. Mandarin into the middle 40s along with Arlington. Ponte Vedra still 51 degrees. So we're going to see a big temperature spread across the area. Not all of us will see the frost. Here's why. High pressure is building in. Location of this high pressure means everything. But one thing's for sure. With clear skies, yes, there will be some frost for some of us. But this high pressure has two sides to it. I'll explain that and tell you why the earthquake today in Japan actually changed the rotation of the Earth. Stay tuned for that. Shannon?
New at 11, we have new information tonight in our investigation of workers' compensation claims denied for Jacksonville firefighters and police officers. Over a 4-month period, the city has delayed answers and refused 10 interview requests. Well, that changed after our meeting with Mayor John Payton in the parking lot here 2 weeks ago.
Hey, Mayor Payton. Hi. Nice to see you.
I do not have time.
You did not even for a few questions? Nothing about risk management.
No, I've got to go. Thank you.
I've tried talking to you there.
And one day after that interview, the city had a change of heart, saying it would talk to us. So we requested once again to speak to the mayor and the head of risk management. The city said no, but we were allowed to speak to the mayor's chief of staff. So our chief investigative reporter, Jack LeBernard, spent 3 hours talking to Adam Hollingsworth over a 2-day period. He told her he could not talk about specific cases and that hypothetical questions dealing with similar case details could not be answered.
Over the last week, dozens of numbers have been passed back and forth between the city of Jacksonville and First Coast News, and back to the city again, asking for more clarification because some numbers don't add up. One thing they know for sure,
more heart claims are denied than accepted.
The mayor's chief of staff, Adam Hollingsworth, says the 441 claims filed under the heart and lung bill in the last 5 years were all carefully reviewed.
It's important that we determine whether or not a person's claim of heart disease or hypertension is in fact related to the course of their employment, not a lifestyle issue.
Hollingsworth is aware that police and firefighters are not happy with how many of those cases were denied. He feels like there is a pattern of denial.
There's not.
Okay. He is also saying, though, he feels that there is, and
the facts don't support the assertion.
In December, the city gave us numbers showing the amount of heart and lung cases denied jumped over the last 5 years, from 30% in 2006 to 72% in 2010. Over a 5-year period, more than 65% were rejected. We got these same numbers from the city again last week. So you're saying not a pattern of denial?
In fact, the city's pattern is to make sure that injured employees and employees who developed a condition as a result of their employment get the medical care they need. That's our pattern.
But after waiting for months for other numbers, like the amount of money paid to attorneys, how many cases have been won and lost, and how many are appealed, well, it's still unclear. The city says it does not have a tracking system in place to follow all these cases, and it is having to go from memory. For exact numbers, the city says it would have to pull all the files. Hollingsworth is confident the city accepted 90% of all workers' comp claims in the last 5 years, and in the 10% denied and challenged at the local court level.
In 80% of the cases, the trial court or the workers' comp court, the workers' comp court makes a determination that the city has made the correct decision. When those cases are appealed to the First District Court of Appeals, the city prevails in 75% of the cases.
In 2 separate interviews, Hollingsworth used those numbers. But after the interviews, we did our own math and realized his numbers did not add up. Let's start with December. Back then, the city told us it fought 6 heart and lung cases on the appellate court level, winning 3 and losing 3. Last week, the city gave us another set of numbers, showing a total of 6 appellate cases for all workers' comp claims. The document showed the city won 4 and lost 2. When we alerted the city to the discrepancy, it gave us new numbers. This week, the city said there were actually 11 appeals for all workers' comp claims. It won 4, lost 5, and settled 2. The city says the reason for the different numbers is because of confusion over separating heart and lung claims and all workers' comp cases.
For the taxpayers.
That is one point Hollingsworth made over and over during 2 separate interviews.
In 2007, we spent about $26 million on the city's workers' comp program. Last year, we spent $16 million. So over the last 3 years, the city of Jacksonville has saved more than $10 million. Over the last 3 years, the city of Jacksonville has saved $10 million in its total workman's comp program.
Hollingsworth's savings come from this, the total cost of money spent in risk management. In 2006, it was $20 million, but that number jumped to $26 million in 2007, then went back down to $20 in 2008, up to $21 in 2009, and down to $16 million in 2010. The $10 million savings is from comparing 2007 to 2010. The number of claims filed and accepted and denied were basically identical during those 2 years. What we don't know is what kind of injuries were treated. We won't know that because of HIPAA regulations.
We save money for the taxpayers by making sure that we pay employees and provide medical care to those who are injured in the course of their employment, and by not compensating employees who aren't injured in the course of their employment.
After months of waiting, the city finally turned over its numbers on how much attorneys have been paid challenging the city's decisions. The numbers show in the last 5 years, you paid lawyers representing injured workers $1.9 million because the city lost or settled. When we questioned Hollingsworth on all that money,
$10 million is a lot of money, and the city's saved $10 million in its workers' comp program over the last 3 years, and we're proud of that record.
More than $831,000 has been spent on investigations of workers' comp claims in the last 5 years. When we pressed Mayor Payton for an answer on it,
can you answer, though, fraud has been caught? I'm not asking for medical records. Has fraud been caught?
I can promise you that we have caught fraud in our efforts over time.
We asked Hollingsworth if the city had any numbers on that.
How much fraud would you say has been caught by the city of Jacksonville?
You know, I got to tell you, I'm uncomfortable with that word. We have in our city who every day file on a good faith basis a claim because they believe that they were injured in the course of their employment. And in fact, what we know is that in more than 90% of the cases, an employee who files a claim seeking compensation or medical care for their injury, the city finds that in fact that's an appropriate claim.
How many cases then has the city found that have been under surveillance or investigated? A part of that $831,000 spent in the last 5 years, how many cases of those then would you say you found where a worker was not injured on the job?
Less than 10%.
$831,000 spent on less than 10%. That's a lot of money.
No, $10 million is a lot of money. And the city of Jacksonville has saved $10 million in the last 3 years.
He says the city does not define fraud. It leaves that up to the court system.
Hollingsworth says risk management does not pursue charges against city employees who are found not to be injured. He told us that decision is left to the state attorney's office. A bill that would change teacher pay is on the fast track to the governor's desk tonight. Why some say students, your children, they are the ones who will suffer. The The NFL in turmoil, what the breakdown in labor talks means for the upcoming football season. And we will have a live update from the scene of breaking news. 3 people have been shot at a West Side apartment complex. We're back in just 60 seconds. We're following breaking news on Jacksonville's West Side right now. 3 people have been shot at an apartment complex on LaBelle Street that's just off Cassett. Aaron Hawley has just arrived on the scene.
Shannon, I've been speaking with officers who've called the scene chaotic right now. There were 2 shootings. We're told the second one did involve a police officer. They say it all happened very quickly, and they're still not sure if there are any suspects on the loose at this point. The victims are not officers, we're told, but the victims were taken to Shands Jacksonville in critical condition, and we're told that the officers, the lieutenants, will update us with more information as soon as it does become available. Live on the West Side, Aaron Hawley, First Coast News, your news leader.
New at 11, golf courses will not be built on Florida State Parks. Sponsors of the legislation we told you about last night withdrew that proposal today. According to our news partner, the Florida Times Union, State Senator John Thrasher said his constituents have made it clear that, quote, this is not an avenue they are interested in pursuing, unquote. The St. Augustine Republican was a co-sponsor of the bill that called for at least one Jack Nicklaus designed golf course to be built in state parks in all 5 regions of Florida. Tonight, a controversial teacher merit pay bill is making its way through the state legislature. It passed the Senate. It's now on the calendar for the House next week, early next week. And while the governor has made it clear he will sign it when it gets to his desk, Caitlin Ross shows us that the whole idea has some very vocal opposition on the First Coast.
We're seeing counties that can't pay teachers right now what they owe them. How are they going to pay increased money? We don't know, and we can't get an answer for it.
Citing Governor Scott's proposed budget cuts of $3.3 billion to education, Wood says school districts are trying to do more with less.
In Duval County, we're talking about going to 4 days a week school. We can't afford a whole week, but now we're going to do merit pay, and there's no funding attached to it.
Some of the funding for the proposed plan would come from Race to the Top, federal dollars awarded to Florida by the Obama administration. And while that money would eventually run out, Governor Scott argues you have to start somewhere.
We're going to be a state that we're going to measure the effectiveness of teachers. It's what you do in business and what we should be doing in our education.
And Scott insists that every child in the public school system has the capacity to perform, regardless of funding, location, or parental involvement.
There's teachers that are effective with those students. We've got to find those teachers, and we've got to keep those teachers, and we've got to reward those teachers.
But school districts will likely have to lay off a number of educators to comply with Scott's proposed cuts that would cost the public school system an estimated $703 per kid.
How can our children bear the brunt of this deficit? It just doesn't seem to make sense.
If the legislation passes and if Governor Scott signs it, it will go into effect 2014. I want to mention we have roadblocks going up on the First Coast tonight. Of course, it's for the Gate River Run tomorrow morning, which begins at 8:30. It starts on Gator Bowl Boulevard. It finishes on Duval Street. So until about 11, several roads in downtown and the San Marco area will be a no-go. Runners will cross the biggest bridges, so expect the Main Street Bridge and the Acosta Bridge to be closed at times as well. So for a complete list of all this, all the road closures, everything, go to the top news section of firstcoastnews.com.
Now, First Coast News Live Doppler, your 2-minute advantage.
And the good news is, yes, the Gate River Run tomorrow morning, and by the river, we've been given temperatures down near that record-tying 33 at the airport, but it'll be about 7 degrees warmer here downtown as the race starts. So feeling nice and warm for you, runners. Just make sure you're hydrated, and I think it'll be a great day for the race. Now, yes, everybody's been thinking about the tsunami, an incredible day for all of us watching those images. And what it actually did, it was so strong, it was one of the top 5 earthquakes of all time for the since records have been kept, at least since the 1800s. But it actually sped up, that's right, it actually sped up the Earth so much that we actually are having the shortest day of the entire year. That's right, a bulge in the mass. In fact, one island moved up to 8 miles because of that shift in the Earth's crust. So pretty amazing. Now, as we come closer to home, we're talking frost advisories, 2 a.m. to 9 a.m. officially. And this is what we call a slight frost. The ground is still very warm. We've had 80-degree temperatures out there, and we had all of that rain. So again, we're seeing temperatures in most locations staying above freezing. The beaches and along the rivers, yeah, a little closer to 40 degrees, especially toward Jacksonville Beach, so you'll be okay. And then from McClenny westward, there could be a brief freeze, including Lake City and Waycross. But again, right now, that'll be less than 2 hours, so no freeze warnings have been issued as a result. So just make sure the more sensitive plants are protected. Area of high pressure is actually moving our way, causing this frosty weather for some of us, especially to the west of I-95. But it has two sides of it. That's all right, two sides to it, because it's a cool high pressure here. But on the return flow, we've got lots of warmer weather, and we're going to start to see that tomorrow with some good fishing weather to go with that running weather. Notice we'll have plenty of sunshine. Temperatures warming up nicely. Just a light south to southwest wind in the afternoon at 5 to 10 knots. And that's right, with that high pressure in control, a beautiful sunny high of 70 degrees. Here's your Gate River run. Two big fears for runners usually is the heat. Don't have to worry about it. 43 to start, 66 by noon. And we're not even going to have to worry about the headwind if you're going over the big bridge tomorrow. The south wind at 5 to 10 miles per hour. Now we go to the 7-day forecast, and this warmer pattern is here to stay once we get through tonight. And we may be losing that hour of sleep, but nature will make up for it. Look at that beautiful weekend. 71 Saturday, 76 Sunday. And next week we'll stay well above average, 75 to near 80 by St. Patrick's Day. Take it away, CP.
Thank you, Mike. Never in the long history of Florida basketball have the Gators been able to beat arch rival Tennessee 3 times in one season. But tonight would have to be a first if the Gators plan to survive and advance to tomorrow's SEC Tourney semifinals. The Vols led at the half, but it was all Florida in the second half, in part. This man, Kenny Borton, you do you while I do 3. Borton is filling it. Then the Gators here on the fast break, ahead to Kenny. Basket, foul, made the free throw. Yet another 3-point play. More from Kenny. From beyond the arc, downtown Atlanta, splash. And the Gators have done it. They've beaten the Vols 3 times in one season. They won a final 85-74. A wild one in the other quarterfinal matchup in the conference. Georgia taking on Alabama. Alabama down 2 right here when Trevor Relevant scores with just seconds left in the game. Dustin Ware of the Dogs has an opportunity to win it right here. He throws it up, and the bank is open. It is good, but wait. Mark Fox called a timeout. Shot waved off. This will go into overtime, and the Crimson Tide will go on to win 65-59. FSU taking on Virginia Tech right now as we speak. Chris Singleton suited up but hasn't played. Folks, it's Miller time. Ian Miller. This is why he's hot. Yes, sir, 24-16 FSU. Knowles on the break. Get it to Miller in the corner. One more time, 3-pointer. Just like Maxwell House Coffee. Good to the last drop. The Noles were winning by 3 in the second half. Last I checked, our wild quarterfinals earlier today in the ACC. North Carolina, they were down by as many as 19 in this one, but with seconds left, they have an opportunity to win this game in regulation. Tyler Zeller right there. Good night. Game over. Drive home safely. And North Carolina knocked off Miami 61-59. The Florida School for the Deaf and the Blind girls basketball team captivated hearts across the First Coast this season, and they're being recognized nationally. We'll tell you why when you come back. After agreeing to 2 extensions, the NFL players filed for decertification today, and now there are reports that the NFL will announce a lockout sometime tonight. They've got about 33 minutes. Meanwhile, NFLPA Chief DeMaurice Smith says they discussed a proposal made by the owners, but significant differences remain.
We asked for 10 years of audited financial records to accompany any extension. We told them that 5 p.m. today. We're going to head back to the office, and I'm sure we'll have a further comment later on. Thank y'all.
10 players have filed antitrust claims against the NFL and the team owners. 3 of the players, MVP, Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, and Drew Brees.
Well, don't think we play because we're deaf. We have the disadvantage. Just deaf people can do the same thing as hearing teams can. We have proof that just because we're deaf doesn't mean we don't know how to play basketball.
That was Lakeisha McNair when I spoke with her back in January, the night before the Florida School for the Deaf and the Blind girls basketball team won its 14th straight, breaking a school record set way back in 1938. The win caught the attention of people across the First Coast and left many believing that this team is as talented as any in our area. Then the Dragons proved themselves again as they won the Mason-Dixon tournament. And tonight, yep, they've caught the attention of the nation. They have been called the Deaf Digest National Team of the Year.
That breaking news, more officers have just arrived at this West Side apartment complex where 3 people were shot in 2 shootings. That second shooting was officer involved. Go to firstcoastnews.com. We'll keep you updated overnight. Good night, everybody.